NARP, come watch, it's time, set the clock. Hitting like Ray off the block. Feel like MJ with the rock. Home run like Sammy Sosa. 2 clutch last period. Get ready, set, go. This a NARP experience. It's a NARP experience. This a NARP experience. This a NARP experience. This a NARP experience.
Welcome back to the NARP experiment. Dax, we had a blockbuster trade. We've been waiting for this for weeks now, ever since we saw Harden hanging out at clubs with Meek Mill, throwing dollar bills at some of his favorite you-know-what establishments. This is a trade Kevin Durant, his old friend, has been waiting for as well. James Harden is now belonging to the Brooklyn Nets in a 4-team deal with a bunch of moving parts. We had Caris LeVert head from Brooklyn to Indiana. You got Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince heading to Cleveland. And Victor Oladipo from the Pacers, along with some other pieces and picks, heading to Houston. This is a crazy deal, man. What are you thinking here? I mean, we knew this was coming. We knew this was inevitable. We knew that it was down between the Sixers and the Nets were able to pull something off, man. This is just a day we know was coming for a long time.
Well, we should get to the big news of the day, and that would be Kristaps Porzingis came back from his meniscus injury and led the Dallas Mavericks to a 104-93 victory over the Charlotte Hornets. It's like, nah. All right. Honestly, my first thought was, holy crap, the Nets backed it up. I did not expect them to give up 4 picks and 4 swaps. I thought it would be closer to like 3 picks, 2 swaps, maybe 2 firsts and 3 swaps. 3 picks probably sounds a little more likely, but 4 picks and 4 swaps. I know that one of the picks was from Cleveland, but man, it was
that's a haul.
It
right
was
there.
that and really Oladipo for anything that's like substantial, but I mean they got a lot of expiring money.
Right.
The Rockets did. The Nets literally went all in. I could look at it from 2 ways. I see it as either you are going all in, you're going all in just to win right now. But the reason you do the trade is because Kyrie has been acting up lately.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's always been like this, but because there's stuff that and there's reports that are not too kind about how Kyrie's relationship has gone with the Nets. Actually, it's not just the Nets that are sour on him right now. So you do this trade because you don't know what you're going to get from Kyrie. Like, for all we know, he could retire in 2 weeks. He could retire tomorrow. So you do this trade to get somebody to replace him because you don't know what you have in him. You also do this trade to make him happy and make him come back and hopefully get him on ship. So that's the 2 ways I look at it. I personally think the Nets gave up a ton, but being that it was pretty much just picks, I'm surprised another team didn't just come out of the woodworks and throw that to get Harden. You know,
I was gonna say something like that. Like I'm surprised another team maybe didn't want to like get themselves involved with maybe at least trying to get another player out of it or something. Because like you said, the picks. But I mean, what was the original?
LeVert and Allen are all right.
Right,
but like I feel like other teams can match that talent.
Right, the original deal was like LeVert, Allen, Dinwiddie, and some. I mean, of course, Dinwiddie went down with that with that season-ending injury. But even at that point, they were like not enough.
Yeah.
And then we saw Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince actually get shipped to a different location in Cleveland. Great deal for the Cavs for just giving up a second rounder to get both
Oh,
those guys. I mean, a 2024
well,
second rounder at that.
no, they gave up that 22 first too. No, from
Right, they
from
own that from
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, but in 2022 that'll be the 28th, 29th pick. Knowing how good Milwaukee is, it's still a first rounder, so you take the
Yeah,
asset. But yeah,
yeah,
regardless,
they've had questions because obviously Drummond's not going forward, their center, and obviously McGee's not either, and they don't really have a young center on the roster, so they pretty much just answered that
right,
for just that late first round pick. That's a steal. I feel like that's really a good haul for the Cavs. They got to take on Torian Prince's contract, and it's not anything horrible, but
and now it's going
I
to
mean
make them better.
they're a
Now they're
rebuilding
going to
team, and they
advance.
could use a wing. So
Right.
I mean,
Well, that just
uh,
advances them for as far as Cleveland's rebuild goes.
yeah.
I mean, they don't have to find their future center. I mean, they had, of course, we just talked about Drummond. He opted into that player option this year, but now honestly, they have some depth at the
So
big man. So like maybe Drummond's on the board on the trot and the trading block, and maybe he
yeah.
gets moved
I
now.
mean, I don't
You
know
know,
what they're gonna get for him at this point, but even if they can do the same thing with Pistons and get like a second rounder, it's worth it
right?
because
They got a second rounder, and don't forget they
he's
also
not
got a
extending there.
dishwasher. They also got a dishwasher and a mop bucket as well. So don't
Yeah,
forget that. The Detroit Pistons did
yeah.
for sending
That would be an
Drummond. So
overpay based off what I've seen. Just quick too, I was on the Drummond train. I can't lie. Um,
yeah, I got his jersey, so I
and
can.
I mean, I could still see him being something. It's just a lot less likely now that I've watched him a little more. He just on offense, he just forces stuff like he's a damn ball handling guard.
Yeah,
Like
he acts like he's a
just
playmaker
literally grab the
sometimes.
ball and he acts like yes, and I just don't get it. And maybe it's because he's on a roster with a bunch of young dudes and he's never really had a good teammate, so he just feels like he can do it and it's okay. Or like maybe they even encourage it.
Right,
But I mean, on a good team, I feel like if you can get Drummond to buy
to buy
into
in.
his
Right,
role, which keep you rebound and protect the rim and
right.
play good help defense and all that good stuff, and get rid of some of the other stuff, then he could probably be a good player, but definitely not at this price tag. You
No.
just can't pay centers that much anymore, and that's a whole other topic of
Right.
discussion.
Yeah, I was gonna
But
say I don't want to get into
basically,
Drummond too much, but I was gonna say like at the end of the day, with ages like involved, who are you gonna pay more? I mean, Jarrett Allen is going
oh,
unrestricted. You'd rather
100%.
just pay Jarrett Allen. That's what it
Jordan's
boils down to.
22. Like, yeah,
Right.
they got their center of the future, and he's looked amazing the past couple of years. It's
Right.
just he's going to be able to showcase that a little more. So yeah, I do think they get rid of Drummond, and even if not, they'll stick him on the end of the bench. Honestly, I think before they let him take fucking primary, excuse my language,
No,
let
you're
him
good.
take primary language or primary minutes away from Allen. So I definitely think
Right.
that was a good deal for the Cavs. What so the Rockets.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you think about that haul? So like,
Rockets.
Victor Oladipo,
Well,
pull up some
I
picks.
felt like since the season ended that they needed to just rebuild and trade away their stars and get some picks. So they got one in the Westbrook trade. They got one pick back.
Hmm.
They got all of them back in
Yeah.
the Harden deal, and they got Oladipo. So, and I already said he's expiring. I believe Exum's expiring. I don't know what Rodian's Crick's
I think he's in rookie
contract
control for
looks
maybe
like,
one more season, but he might be heading into restricted free
and
agency as
he's
well.
he's
But
not making anything. So,
no,
not really an issue there. So,
hasn't really
I
made
mean,
sense yet.
clearly it's rebuild for them. They're trying to recoup
The
what
thing
they
is
can,
though, the
which
thing
is the
is
right
though,
move.
the
I
thing is
mean,
though, their starting lineup, when you look at it on paper, they're still going to compete. You're talking about John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Eric Gordon, Christian Wood, and Boogie Cousins. I mean, that's not hateful. And they just got all those picks back that
no,
they sent out in all these multiple trades over the last few years to make Harden happy. They just got it all back. So they're going to
yeah,
eventually be in decent, I think, control of their future, moving forward. So, and it doesn't look that bad on the roster, especially if they figure out
no.
if Oladipo works out, maybe they look to extend him.
Yeah, I feel like man, it's tough. The thing is, I don't think a nucleus of Wall and Oladipo are gonna win you a chip, and I think they're both good players, especially with the way Wall's looked this year, and same for Oladipo too.
Hmm.
So I do think ideally they would want to extend Oladipo if they could, and then trade him again, flip him, or maybe even flip him at the deadline or after the February 5th
Yeah.
after after you're allowed to trade
Trade
players
players.
who either traded or signed this year. So maybe they do that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do overperform. Maybe they do want to just go forward with Christian Wood and Oladipo and John Wall and see what they can put around them
Right.
with their assets. Maybe they trade PJ Tucker for a pick because he hasn't looked. He's looked honestly brutal this year. So
He's still a good
there's a
player.
couple different options to go. I mean, I personally think you got rid of Harden. You're chalking it up. You might as well just at this point recoup as many assets as you can going forward for the rebuild. Trade Depot for a pick if you can. Trade PJ Tucker for a pick if you can. He can come play for my Mavs. Uh, I mean, Christian Wood, you definitely keep him around. I mean, and maybe he can be part of the team even after the rebuild if he's just keep because you can keep someone around and he could be a centerpiece for that team
Right.
depending on how he projects over the next couple of years. So I feel like that's their best bet would just be try to trade him off and just get even more picks and
Yeah. And focus on that
just try
rebuild
to
because yeah, it feels like Houston's been just
focus on
trying
the
to be good,
rebuild.
and it's
Don't
been
you
trying
don't
to be
want to
good
be
for
in the
years
middle, and
now.
it looks like this is the middle roster.
Right.
And it might even be like a little bit above the middle, maybe like a 15 to 10,
Yep.
or I mean, I'm not honestly that's being generous, maybe like an 18 to 12
Right.
middle
Of the
or
pack type.
16 to 12 rather.
Right.
But
Right.
like it's not a championship team anymore. So if you're not a championship team and you're not a couple pieces away, then
You're just gonna be stuck in purgatory, and
yeah.
no team likes to do that. I mean, just ask my Detroit Pistons
Unless
with
unless they want to take all those picks and flip them for Brad Beal, I mean,
now that would be wild. We can get into some theories about that another day. But heading over to the indie side of things, I love this move. They get Caris LeVert on I believe an extra year of team control at such a lower number. Not
oh
such a
yeah,
lower number, but a price tag compared to what they would have had to pay Oladipo to extend him. And Karis is having a really good season. He's a great scorer. I think he would play perfect alongside Brogdon and the emerging star in Sabonis. And I think they made out well in this deal as well, just to give up Oladipo for Karis in
yeah,
a Houston second.
I agree. I agree. I think the problem still with Indiana is, and I think this was a good deal. Don't get me wrong.
Indiana's
The
been playing great,
problem
man. I
with
think they're a
Indiana
contend.
is
I think they possibly contend
they
as well with
don't
the
have
Saints.
cap space. They're
But
not gonna have cap space.
true.
And is your nucleus of Levert, Brogdon, Sabonis going to be good enough to do anything? And maybe these guys are pieces, and you will ship a couple of them off for a star, or maybe you ship one of them and like a TJ Warren or an Aaron Holiday type of dude off with a couple picks and get to add another player to go to this team and see what
Mm-hmm.
happens then. I mean, and that very well could be the plan for all I know. But just basing it off of this deal, I definitely think they got better. I do think the Cavs definitely won the trade. I think the Rockets won the trade. I think the Pacers won the trade. We'll get to the Nets in a second,
I
but
can say the
Levert
Nets,
will
but
fit. Levert will fit with Warren being out for a little bit of time with the foot that he's got, the foot injury. And when he does come back, then they'll have two big wings. They'll have two big wings. They'll have Brogdon, who's a big guard,
mm-hmm.
and they'll have guys all over the floor that can put the ball in the hoop, and they'll
Right.
have guys who can defend. So I don't I like it. I mean, I think Indiana could be sneaky good this year
Yeah,
in the
I'm
playoffs
saying don't
just
sleep on
because
the
of the depth
Pacers.
and the size.
Yeah, I'm saying don't sleep on the Pacers. I think they've showed that they can compete year in and year out, and it seems like all their guys, all their pieces are just getting better. I mean, we know how much of an X factor T.J. Warren was last season, while Victor was still trying to get back into form. Just imagine if they had both those guys perfectly healthy right now on that team. They'd probably be even better than what we see with our own eyes. And I know it's early. We've talked about small sample sizes, but Indiana's sneaky, man. They can find themselves legit battling for like a 3, 4 seed home court advantage. And I know with a COVID season that doesn't mean much, but it still means probably everything to these players. And
Yeah.
I do think that they did get better just because I just like that team control and that price tag of Karras. And he's able to do the same exact things as Vic, just bigger. Like you said, when TJ
Yeah.
Warren gets back, they're going to have two big wings out there next to Brogdon who can both control the ball and put the ball in the basket. And then you've got Towers down there and Sabonis and Turner. And Turner's looked great this year. He's kind of having a rejuvenated season. He's been an animal on the
It's
defensive
the
end.
best season of his career,
Yeah, he's been
honestly.
an animal on the defensive
Turner
end.
has Turner has not improved a single lick since his rookie year until this year. So this is huge for him. And I mean, I personally think they should trade high or trade him while he's hot. I think you could, and I don't know if it would have to be this year. I don't know exactly how long Warren's out, but if you could somehow turn Warren and Turner and a couple picks into another all-star caliber player, I don't know who's out there necessarily, but if you can turn that into another high-level player, then I think you got to consider doing it because being Indiana, you're not going to get a free agent.
Right.
I mean, maybe you will with LeVert and Brogdon, Sabonis being so good. And that Sabonis contract is so team friendly, and even LeVert's is going to be team friendly. So they're still going to have max money. I do believe going forward once Turner and Warren are off the Bucks, if they don't trade them. So going to be interesting to see what happens with them.
Did you like that potential trade that almost happened in the offseason where they did a sign and trade for Gordon Hayward? Would that have been maybe some player you would have liked? Maybe if you were to replace Turner with Hayward on this current roster as is after this trade, do you think?
I think. So, like, are you saying LeVert, Brogdon, Sabonis, and Hayward?
Yeah, if you do the trade that happened today, and then you do the trade that would have sent, I think it was like Turner.
I thought it had to be Vic too. It was going to be Vic and Turner. That's what I thought.
Well, I think that's the reason Indy was like no, but I just remember it was centered around Turner and Hayward.
I mean, if it could have just been like a Warren
for Hayward or something, or vice versa, whatever the case may be, whatever team was looking for the pick.
Basically, if you pick Turner up and put him right on this team, is he good enough to put them over the hump? I'm not sure. He is good. He's been playing extremely well this year too.
Right.
I don't know. It'd be a really, really interesting team to see. They'd have ball handlers 1 through 5. It'd be. I mean, well, I don't know who else would start with them, but it'd be LeVert, Hayward, Brogdon, Sabonis, and all of those dudes can handle the ball for you. So that would be.
Throw out Doug McDermott out there to be a shooter, and they'll be fine.
Oh yeah, they'd be good. They'd have a good offense.
Yeah.
And they'd have some size on defense. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the East is just so hard to compete now that there's a super team like that. And with the Sixers, I think the Sixers look amazing this year. I think the Celtics look. I mean, I don't know. They got to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, Celtics in the playoffs, the Heat in the playoffs. I mean, there's good teams. I don't know if I'd put the Pacers above any of them at this point, but I do think that where they are now is better than where they would be if they did that first trade.
Right.
Because Turner's value is so much higher now.
Right.
Mainly, that's the main reason why. And LeVert's on a really team-friendly deal.
Right, and like you said, Turner's having a career year, but we can go ahead and get into it if you really want to. After this deal, I've got Brooklyn as the favorites coming out of the East. I mean, this is it's too much talent on the court. It's 3 guys who can literally score 30 a night. I know we've talked about off air, there's only one basketball, but when you have 3 talents like this who all probably get along and are friends, they're going to buy in. I mean, think about just Kevin Durant maybe wasn't like best of friends with any of his previous Warriors teammates, but you took Harrison Barnes off that team and just inserted Kevin Durant, replaced him. And they were insane. Their chemistry was great, minus the whole Draymond debacle, but that's because, Kevin only wanted to be there for a limited time and win some chips. But, I mean, it seemed like they all were having so much fun. And now that you have Kevin Durant with his friends, I mean, he played years with James. Him and Kyrie are apparently good friends off the court. So, I don't know. I just see those 3 buying in, and it's too talented of players to where they're just not going to be successful. I got them coming out the East.
They are all smart, highly proficient, 3 of the best, probably 20 scorers we've ever had in the NBA.
Yep.
And I might even be higher than that. So
depends on how you value Kyrie, but he's.
I mean, I think they got to be the favorites just because there might be one ball, but once it's playoffs time and they are there, I just picture them attacking the mismatch every time down the floor.
Right.
And when because no team is going to be able to stick somebody. You can't guard these guys. You can't guard these guys, period. Let alone 3 high-level defenders on them. So if these guys play the right way and they can just pick apart an offense like they should, it is going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. Now their defense obviously is a big question mark, and even their protecting the paint is a huge question mark now for them.
especially with no
So I don't
Allen,
think
right?
they're done. I do not think they're done this year with the moves that they're going to make, and I hope that they're not.
They
I mean,
actually have 3 roster spots available, I believe, after this
yeah,
trade. So they have a couple of mid-level exceptions I think they can use.
I
Um,
think it's going to be crucial what they do because if
right,
they can't get somebody to anchor the paint or another 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 like a high level defender, then a wing defender or even a guard defender, they just need somebody out there who can play some defense next to these guys.
right. Or else they're
And,
gonna their best bet will only
or
be to
somebody
win
to check the
games
paint.
140 to like 120. That'll be their best bet. 140 to 130. Be high
And I
scoring
mean, they
games.
may not have an issue doing it either. That's
Right,
the thing.
right.
It's just, what are you going to do when you go to play the Sixers if that is a matchup where you go to play Giannis and you have nobody who could stop him because I forgot to even mention the Bucks earlier when we were talking about the East, but that's an issue. That is an issue that the Nets actually just got much worse in faring against, and I don't know what they do. Part of me honestly still thinks that the Sixers have a really good chance of coming out of the East this year as long as everything stays uh, on track to be healthy teams for both of them
Hmm.
or for all the teams involved. Obviously, this year's crazy, so we don't know. But if I had to pick today who's going to come out, I would say the Sixers. I would just say the Sixers because when everyone was healthy for them and their offense was clicking, and I watched a couple of games earlier this year, full games. Ben Simmons looks so comfortable in the offense this year compared to last year. It's literally night and day.
Yep.
And they have defenders all over the court, high level defenders, and it seemed like they have it figured out. The
Yeah, it
Sixers do
seems like
right
they have the best roster they ever had
now, and
around Ben and Embiid. So
yeah. So I honestly I think that the Sixers would beat them right now if I had to pick. I'd say that. But there's just so much talent on the Nets; it's scary, and I would be more surprised if the Nets didn't uh, add some pieces and change my mind than if they didn't add any pieces, and then I would still obviously lean toward the Sixers. But
yeah, but they're not done. I don't think. But I think we're
no,
both in agreement about all 4 teams basically won this trade for their respective
yeah.
organizations. I mean,
Which is really weird because normally when you trade a superstar like Harden, you lose. But I just think the
right,
Rockets were just in desperate need to just move on and get what they can get. And the fact that like it was so bad the optics of it the past couple of months or past couple of weeks rather in
right.
Houston that they still somehow flipped it for 4 firsts and 4 swaps is it's honestly it's surprising. And my thing is, I don't think Harden's value had gone down at all. The Rockets made the right play sticking to their guns, and Harden's value didn't go down at all from yesterday, from the post game interview after the Lakers loss, because it's still Harden, and everyone knows he's upset. So it's
Hmm.
not like somebody's like, it doesn't change. It didn't change anything, and clearly we saw that here. So
Right. I think
the Rockets,
I think whichever team was going to trade for him, regardless, was just going to get
yeah,
the James Harden that we've known for the last 5, 6, 7 years of just being constantly in MVP considerations, 35 a night. Like I just think, yeah, he was just over it. His time was done last night.
yep.
After that loss to Lakers, you just knew that that was his last game in a Rockets jersey. So
Yeah, pretty much what it is if you go from through the teams right here on the screen, left to right. The Cavs got Jarrett Allen for constantly hurt Exum, who's been a disappointment. The Rockets got all their picks back, and they got flexibility in Oladipo and flexibility in Exum's contract expiring, and Krax makes next to nothing. And then the Pacers got flipped Oladipo, who was expiring for LeVert, who's got 5 more years left on his deal now, and a second rounder from Houston in 23, which could be a good pick.
hmm
And then the Nets obviously got James Harden, one of the top 5 players in the NBA. So
right.
they all won. They all won.
Every team
That's rare.
made the right moves and asked and got the right pieces for what they were giving up in the deals. So it's a win for all 4 teams. And we shall see what happens. We'll see if Kyrie comes back sooner rather than later, so we can all see what this product looks like on the court now. But this is something we've been waiting for weeks now, and it is finally done. Harden is out of Houston, on his way to Brooklyn. Let's see what happens.
Thanks for tuning in to the NARP experiment. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And we will be producing 2 to 3 videos a week.
Continue to follow the channel for the hottest in sports content. We'll be coming at you guys with more stuff throughout the year. Thanks.
NARP, come watch, it's time, to the clock. Hitting like Ray off the block. Feel like MJ with the rock. Home run like Sammy Sosa. 2 clutch last period. Get ready, set, go. This a NARP experience. It's a NARP experience. This a NARP experience. This a NARP experience.